So this video is not going to be about any one particular show. I wanted to do a video on the BL actors and ships, just because there can be a lot of issues with ships, and there are some really toxic, passionate fans when it comes to ships. And something I wanted to sort of call attention to that I noticed, um, particularly with the 2022 GMMTV lineup, because that's the one I've seen the most different shows and things about. Um, just, I guess that one's just been better on my feed. I don't know. I've seen a lot of content about the GMMTV and their lineups that are coming up. And now I know like the ships and the pairings can be really great, right? Like you fall in love with the characters that they portray, and you like seeing those two characters together. Like in A Thousand Stars, you have Earth and Mix, and they did great together. And Mix was a new actor, right? That was his first big thing that he did, and he did amazing with it. And I noticed that sort of with like the lineups that I have seen from GMMTV and other ones, they seem to be breaking ships, and I kind of like that. But I also noticed that for like Earth Mix particularly, some of the younger, less experienced actors, we'll call them, they've kept the ship together, and I kind of like how they're doing that. And there's reasons behind that. You see, when you're a new actor, even though your acting skills might be quite good, um, pairing romantically with somebody is not easy, and pairing with someone of the same gender romantically is definitely not easy, especially if they may not swing that way, right? So it is very taxing on them, I think, to both grow as an actor and be able to portray those types of things. And though that growth will come eventually, I like that with some of the newer pairings, um, like the couple you see in Fish Upon the Sky, those two actors, they've kept them together. And they're putting in other shows. And with Earth and Mix, they've kept them together and they're putting them in other shows. And I kind of like how they're doing that because they're enabling the actors to grow as actors without having to worry about, okay, now I need to meet this person who I've probably never met before or maybe worked together once or twice and be in love with them and portray that, right? So I think that that would be very stressing and taxing on a less experienced actor. And I like that they're keeping some of these ships together and enabling them to grow as actors, um, while maintaining that ship. However, I very much enjoy the fact that we're going to be seeing new content where they've broken ships. Sort of like Syncto. Syncto, he has had many ships, but they didn't keep him in his original pairing. Is the important part that I'm getting to. They didn't keep him with his original pairing, and they were able to separate him and put him with other people. And we as fans really enjoyed that because you know if they didn't do things like that, we wouldn't have gotten and Syncto as a pairing, right? And He's Coming to Me, and they both did great at that. And I think it was because they're both very strong actors, right? So they were able to go in there and portray a loving romantic relationship, um, while portraying these complex emotions and everything. They had the strength as actors to be able to do that. And I like that they're breaking up some of the pairings and they're putting them with different people because at this point, like some of those actors, they should be strong enough to be able to do that and to now portray it as as I'm in love with this person, right? And portray those characters just a little bit better. So I'm really happy with the the uh, the breaking of ships that's going on, but I also really enjoy the ships that they've come together. And it's just it really sort of speaks to how strong the actors are. And even though these newer actors are doing fantastic, there's still a lot of room for growth. And so I like that they're not putting added stress on them by then putting them with a brand new romantic partner, you know? So, like, I hope that makes sense. But I wanted to sort of point that out because when you have two actors together for too long, you can't see them with anyone else, right? And some of the fans become angry or hostile because they've tried to pair them with someone else. And like I know got a lot of pressure from fans because he was being paired with Singto, right? And it's like it wasn't he didn't cast the characters, right? He didn't he didn't do that. But he's just working with it, right? And it's not his fault. And honestly, we shouldn't be putting pressures on the actors as if they're a real life couple, right? And it's like a lot of these actors, they become friends because they're in the industry together. And they're not worried about these added extra pressures, right? Until it smacks them in the face and they're getting death threats, you know? Because they're acting with someone that the fans deem is unacceptable for them to be acting with, you know? And as fans, we should not be doing that, right? And okay, even if even if the actors were together in real life, they still have every right to go to another show and portray a relationship with someone new, right? Even if they were together. But they're, as long as we know publicly, they're not together, right? And when I started watching BL content, you know, I started getting like different suggestions and things on YouTube, right? And I've only been watching BL content since like 2019. And so it's not very long, but I could not tell you how many times I've seen videos pop up that say off and gun's wedding. Things like that. Like they're together in real life and this is their wedding. And that's not fair to off or gun, right? First off, you're assuming both of their sexualities. And as far as I know, like, Off has never gone public with what his sexuality is, and he should not need to. Right? And just because Off and Gun worked so well together, and, like, they are a great ship, right? They do so well together. They're such good friends, and they're able to bond so well and portray those bonds, right? But we as fans are taking it too far, you know? If Off and Gun were actually together, right? Say they were actually together and they were actually dating. Honestly, I think that would be a big deal and it would be literally everywhere. Right? It would be made known on their feeds, on other feeds, right? And if Off and Gun were going to have a wedding, they would have a big wedding. A big wedding full of all kinds of stars, and it would be marketed and they'd probably have sponsors just because they are huge, right? If they were going to get married, they're not going to do it in secret. They would do it in front of fans. You know what I'm saying? Or they at least would make it known after the fact. They're not going to be secret about it. Because they'd have absolutely no reason to be secret about it. Right? The fans have been so supportive of it. Everybody's supportive of it. Everybody wants it, you know? Why would they be secret? And it's like that with some of these other pairings that they have. Like, even their families are very supportive of the pairing. They're supportive of them being friends or like together, but not romantically together. You know what I mean? They're supportive of them being portrayed together, right? So why would they then go off and secretly get married? It makes absolutely no sense. And honestly, I hate that type of videos. We as fans need to accept the limitations. And that's one of the things that I really like about what they're doing this time, about breaking the ships. Because there are limitations to the ships. Unless they are actually together, there are limitations to these ships. And if any of the couples were actually together, I honestly think most of them would make it public. Right? So I like the fact that they're breaking up these groups, they're breaking up the ships, and they're making these shows separately. Because I think that is very important due to the fan mentality. And we're not all like that. I mean, honestly, I don't think we're all like that. But there are some really passionate fans that just become toxic when they're taking it too far, right? And we as fans should be calling them out on it. It shouldn't just be on the actors trying to defend themselves, right? Because I know there's been a few actors that are trying to defend themselves and be like they're saying like my sexuality has literally nothing to do with this. You know, we shouldn't have to or we shouldn't be forcing the actors to come out and say either I am straight or I am gay or I am bisexual or I am anything else, you know. We do not need to know that. We should not be forcing that, right? And we have to accept that these people are actors. They are portraying characters, and they are portraying them in ways that are really, really well done. But I do like that, intentionally or not, they seem to be taking measures against that by breaking pairings. Not saying that those two actors will never act together again, but they've broke the pairings, right? And they're putting them together with someone else. And I think that is important in breaking that mentality that those two can only be together, right? Because that should never be the case. I, a lot of the North American content, you know, comes out of the US. And in the American movies, like you would never see either a male female or any type of romantic pairing where those two particular actors were only ever in a relationship with each other and just everything else changed, right? Like the characters have changed and the settings have changed, but those two actors are only together. And you would never see that in American content. So I don't know why, like I don't know any other country that does that. So I don't know why we're demanding it from countries like Thailand, where it's like these two actors can only ever be together and they should only ever be together and you should give them all the projects and we want to see multiple projects from them every year. And you know, like we're making these outrageous demands and it is unfair to everyone involved. So I think we as fans, if we see fanatics, call them out because they should not be behaving like that. It's the same thing like when you find characters and actors that are being sexualized. Now, I'm not saying you can't find the character sexy, but there's a difference between finding somebody sexy and sexualizing someone. And I know that was a problem with Fish Upon the Sky because one of the main actors, he was not that old. I can't remember his exact age, but he's technically still not old enough. And there were fans going crazy about how sexy he is and what they would do to him and just be totally inappropriate. And we as fans need to also call that out, you know, because I am a parent. I have two children who are now adults. And if I found someone making comments about one of my sons, about how sexy he is, and they just want to grab that bum, and like how they want to touch him or rub him all over their body, like that is incredibly inappropriate. And I would never accept that. I would call somebody out for that. So we, as fans, should be doing the same thing. Whether the actor is of age, of legal age, or not, I find it is incredibly inappropriate. Right? Yes, they have to put a lot of care into their bodies. They are actors. So, yes, they're going to look good. And yes, they're going to post photos where they're looking good. Right? Because people like the photos. And then they get more views and they become more popular. It unfortunately is something that has to happen in the industry. But sexual harassment does not need to happen in the industry. And unfortunately, a lot of the ship behavior is also sexual harassment. The way they're harassing these actors, right? So we need to call fanatics out wherever we see them. Whether they're sexual harassing or whether they're going overboard on ships or whatever it is they may be doing, like we as responsible fans should be calling that out. Because I'm assuming that most of us would not accept that type of behavior around us in our real life. So why would we accept that type of behavior on the internet? And we need to do something about these toxic fans. And I think that the shipbreaking that we have coming up, where we're going to see more experienced actors being paired with other actors that are probably equally experienced, right? But they're not their original pairing and they're not in their ships, right? And I am looking forward to seeing that because I think that is a beautiful thing. It's going to help with all the toxic behavior. It's going to help with people becoming too focused on pairings and too focused on ships, right? And at least I think it's going to help. And I hope that we see results from this because we as fans need to do better. And I honestly think that the industry is probably trying to take measures so that they don't have things like that happen ever again. Because, I mean, don't know all the actors that have suffered because of their ships. But I have heard of several. Like, I know was threatened, and there were other ones, but of course their names escape me now. Um, but yeah, like they've been threatened where when either they in you know in the acting ways whenever they've left their ships, or and they've gone to other couples, or even publicly. I know there have been some where they come out publicly and say like, "This is my girlfriend" or "This is my boyfriend," and people lose their darn minds because they just don't want to accept it. And you know what? We are not the ones that make that decision. We as fans are not the ones that decide who you're going to fall in love with or who you're going to be with forever, right? But what we can do is we can support the actors that we enjoy, and we can support the pairings that we enjoy in a respectful way, and knowing that it's not going to be carrying on far, right? Like, At best, I think most of these pairings are really, really great friends. And I think we should respect that.